Jesus Christ. It's UFC 309 fight week. I kind of forgot about this. I'm being like, I'm not even kidding you, because it's a nobody gives a fuck about title fight between Jon Jones and old man Stipe Miocic, who hasn't fought for, I believe, 3 or 4 years, is 42, barely in the top 10 right now, coming off a brutal KO loss against Francis Ngannou. While there is a rightful interim champion who we are now trying to redefine that interim champions are not next in line or deserving of a title shot. That makes sense. Jon Jones is ducking. As of right now, he is ruining his legacy. And it's coming from a guy who doesn't like Jon Jones, but before all of this, even before he fought Ciryl Gane to become the champion, I did think he was, at least, you could say he was one of the GOATs. I generally don't like saying he's the GOAT simply because of the steroid incident. And I know people would be like, oh, it was picograms. I'm like, well, he full-on failed it, and you have to have him in your system beforehand. And it'd be implied that he failed for a drug test beforehand. 5 failed drug tests, most failed drug tests in the UFC, most high-profile drug fails consistently. Eye gouging cheating is another thing, and then his level of competition at certain points is not good, and then a robbery win over Dominic Reyes. So, not the greatest legacy, in my opinion, of it there. The outside of cage stuff is awful, and I'll reference it because you can't ignore it, and I'm tired of people pretending like he's a good person when he's not. But this basically started with, he won the title. I remember after he beat Ciryl Gane, beat him quickly, which I think I had picked Ciryl Gane to win just because, he was giant. Jon Jones had spent 4 years trying to bulk up, and he still looked like a fat ass. In his last fight, he looked awful and couldn't take down Dominic Reyes, who Dominic Reyes at that point was on a losing streak, a pretty bad one. I know he's on a win. He just won a fight, but you get the idea. But just a lot of issues with me thinking that he would win. And then, he kind of proved it wrong. I think he guillotine choked Ciryl Gane, which, embarrassing. He won a title. And I'm going to say this already, he won the vacant title. He did not beat a former champion. He did not beat a champion. He beat a guy on a 1-fight win streak. We'll start with that when I get later on to this. And then it was instantly assumed that he's going to fight Sergey Pavlovich, because Sergey Pavlovich at this point, I think, was about ready to fight Curtis Blaydes, or he had already just beaten Curtis Blaydes. KO'd him pretty badly. So, my impression was that's what's going to be next. He's going to fight this boogeyman thing. If he beats Sergey Pavlovich, defends his heavyweight title, then I would probably have put him in the GOAT conversation. But no, it's going to be Stipe Miocic, which doesn't make sense because, and people are going to be like, well, he's a former champion. Yeah, he was not on a win streak, a crazy win streak, when he lost his title. He was on a 1-fight losing streak coming off of a 2-fight win streak where he reclaimed his title and won the trilogy against Daniel Cormier. Impressive 2 wins, obviously, but not enough to warrant an immediate rematch when he already got an immediate rematch. Mind you as well, the division had been moving on already. It wasn't like a thing like he instantly got it after losing. No, if that would have happened, it would have been fine. But considering that I don't think Stipe had really any real major wins at that point in the top 15. He might have, but I don't think there's anyone in the top 15 at that point and still now that he has a win over. So he has no relevant wins. It's like Colby Covington. Colby Covington does not have a relevant win. It's just that simple. It's that simple, so he should not be fighting the title of it there. But, they were making the fight, and then Jon Jones pulled out of, I think it was 295 because he tore his pec. Now, I'm not saying he should have stayed on the card because, it was a bad injury. I'm not a big, I get there's certain injuries fighters can power through, but when it's like that far gone at certain points, it wouldn't make any sense. I'll give him that. That's not a part. I don't think most people were actually upset about that. People were upset at then Stipe Miocic pulling out of the fight, and then they made an interim title fight for Sergey Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall was coming off a win. His comeback win against Marcin Tybura after one loss against Curtis Blaydes, where a freak injury in the first 12 seconds, which Jon Jones, for some reason, in the build-up to the rematch between Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blaydes, was trying to give some analysis on how the fight went when it's 12 fucking seconds and an injury. Shut the fuck up, you fucking little bitch. I'm not even afraid to say that anymore. I do not give a fuck anymore. It's so annoying. He's a fucking crybaby. But then, Tom Aspinall smokes one of the boogeymen at that time of the division in, like, I think under a minute. Maybe it was slightly over a minute. Insane. On a week's notice against a guy Jon Jones didn't want to fight. And then everyone's like, okay, well then, you know, he's the interim champion. He's going to fight Jon Jones. Nope. Jon Jones and Stipe are still fighting. And then now it's becoming a thing of everyone's trying to say, like, oh, just because he's the interim champion doesn't mean Jon Jones has to fight him. Like, yes, he does. He's the interim champion. That's the fucking point of the title. And you can't give any leverage thing to Jon Jones saying he's, like, this dominant champion at heavyweight. He's 1-0 in the division in a fucking vacant title fight. As of right now, Tom Aspinall has more claim to the fucking heavyweight title than Jon fucking Jones has. And don't bring anything a light heavyweight thing out there. Like, that has nothing to do with this division. It really doesn't. And then they're saying, like, oh, Tom Aspinall needs to, like, earn his title shot as if he is not the fucking interim champion. And then it's saying, like, it just wouldn't make any sense. He really hasn't done anything to prove that I should fight him. And my only response to that is, and it's not like I just came with this response, it's been said numerous times, then Shogun Rua should not have fought you. Shogun Rua should said, like, Jon Jones hasn't done anything. His best win was fucking Ryan fucking Bader. And you had a DQ loss. You have about the same, that loss has the same amount of merit as him getting a fucking injury towards it. So what's your argument? What's your argument for that? Yours from because he wants to say that that's not a loss on his record because it's a dumb rule. Tom Aspinall fucking tore his fucking, like, entire knee up in the first 12 seconds. It's so fucking annoying. And then Jon Jones, he just keeps kind of proving that, you know, he's actually scared of Tom Aspinall. And people are like, he's not afraid of anyone. And I'm like, he is. When he's like, oh, he's basically saying it's too risky to fight him, which, in my opinion, I get people like, oh, wouldn't it be logical? It'd ruin his legacy if he lost to Tom Aspinall. If he's the GOAT, he would beat Aspinall. Like, I get the concept of, like, everyone has a time where they're going to lose. But I don't want to hear this thing of him being the GOAT where when he's still active and he's a current champion, he's ducking the number one guy. That doesn't make any sense. And the Stipe win does nothing for him. Because I get the thing that people are going to say on paper. I genuinely believe that this entire moment of him holding up an entire division to fight a 42-year-old man is going to hurt his legacy. And for the most part, he's not the GOAT. Like, he genuinely is not the GOAT. One, you can argue, even before heavyweight, steroid cheat. Won a vacant title, which, you know, still won a title, but is now ducking the number one contender who has now defended his interim title, which has happened, I believe, on 2 other occasions. No, technically 3 other occasions, and one of those champions did it twice. That was Hendon Barao. God, he has more claim to it. He's actually defended his title. He's beaten most of the fucking top 10 in spectacular fashion, and MMA Guru was saying it, but Jon Jones has honestly had a pretty easy legacy to have because most of the guys he's fought were undersized for the division and for the most part one-dimensional. Like, and people are saying, like, Jon Jones doesn't duck anybody. He literally turned down a short notice fight from fucking Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen, a fucking middleweight guy who was so one-dimensional. And people are like, well, Jon Jones beat him in it. Yeah, but he wasn't confident enough to beat him on short notice. Like, I don't care at that point. Like, Jon Jones has proven beforehand his entire mindset when it comes to fights. If preparation is not perfect, he's not taking the fight. He has proven that. The only time that he did was for Shogun Rua on short notice. And it wasn't even that crazy of short notice. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. His fucking, other than DC, and one of those wins was on fucking steroids. And the first win, people are denying this, but it was a really competitive fight. He clearly won, but it was a really competitive fight. And then, you know, after failing steroids, come back winning the title, had 3 decision wins against, you know, Anthony Smith. You couldn't finish Anthony Smith. And then a no-legged Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos' knees were blown out, and you couldn't KO him. You couldn't even look that impressive against him. And then you lost to fucking Dominic Reyes, but they gifted you the decision. And then you fucking bailed out of the fucking light heavyweight division because you knew that you'd probably lose your next fight. It's that simple. You go up to heavyweight. You waited till Francis Ngannou was out of the division so that way you could beat Cyril Gane, submit him, another one-dimensional fighter. And then now you're ducking the only guy who's actually a better version of you, has actual KO power, fucking can submit people. He submitted fucking Alexander Volkov. It's fucking crazy. And another thing for Alexander Volkov, Jon Jones trying to discredit, like, Sergey Pavlovich, which I get because, Sergey Pavlovich just lost another fight. But he lost it to Volkov, who has, I think, the longest win streak currently at heavyweight. Currently active, I believe. Either he's tied or he's up there. Fucking Tom Aspinall beat him in, like, slightly over a minute. Like, you can't really discredit one win because, like, well, he lost to that guy. It's like, well, Tom Aspinall beat that dude even more impressively. It's insane. But he waited till Francis Ngannou left out of the division, beat Cyril Gane, and then now he's trying to fight an old man who's not going to win. People picking fucking Stipe Miocic aren't fucking pay attention to anything. He looks fucking slow as fuck. And, like, yeah, Stipe hits hard, but he's not a crazy knockout artist. He really isn't. Like, he has knockouts. Like, obviously, he's got no submissions, only knockouts and some decisions. Like, obviously, he hits hard. He's a heavyweight, but he hits harder for heavyweight than most heavyweights. But he's not got, like, Tom Aspinall power or anything close to Francis Ngannou power of it there. And he's slower now. His boxing isn't as good. His agility is fuck all at this point. I really cannot see a world where, Jon Jones doesn't beat him. I think he might take him to a decision, but he also just might submit him. I don't think he might KO. No, I don't think he's going to KO Stipe. But he might submit him in the later rounds or just take him to a decision where he just holds him down at that point. Honestly, I can see that. It's so fucking... And then he's saying that he would rather... He's just going to... Or he tried ignoring Tom Aspinall and saying he's going to fight Alex Pereira, saying Alex Pereira is more worthy of it there, which, like, shut the fuck up. You're trying to get the easiest legacy possible to be the GOAT when you are not the GOAT of it there, and you fucking piss and whine over any slight criticism of you. You pull the race card against Stipe because Stipe called you a bitch. Then don't be a bitch. If you're going to get mad about it, don't be a bitch. He's not saying it for no reason. You are a bitch of it there. It's actually kind of insane. Like, I don't even, like, necessarily like shit-talking UFC fighters because, like, they could kick my ass. Every single one on that roster could kick my ass. And honestly, like, they're the people I watch for entertainment, the sport I choose to watch. I give them the respect that, they deserve. Obviously, I'll criticize them if they do something dumb or they're, doing what Jon Jones is doing. But, like, if people are saying, like, oh, you're disrespecting Jon Jones is disrespecting himself. If you see the way he conducts himself with everything he does in his life, there's not a shred of respect that this man deserves. And it's that plain and simple. Not in the cage, especially not outside the cage. Like, it's that bad. But I've ranted enough about this. Jon Jones is going to win. I'm going to say 4th or 5th round submission. Maybe a rear naked choke. Arm triangle choke as well, possibly. That's it. Bye.